I stared at the number on the screen. $8.2 million. The cursor blinked next to it like it was mocking me. My hands were shaking so badly I had to set down the phone. Let me back up. Let me tell you how a man goes from having nearly $4 million to sleeping on an air mattress in a studio apartment in Tacoma. Let me tell you how my own daughter did that to me. My name is Marcus Chen. I'm 62 years old, though I feel about 90 these days. 3 years ago, I lost my wife Linda to a massive stroke. We'd been married 34 years. She was my college sweetheart, my best friend, the only person who ever really understood me. When she died, something inside me died too. I threw myself into work after that. I was a civil engineer, worked on infrastructure projects all over the Pacific Northwest. Bridges, water systems, that kind of thing. I was good at it. Really good. By the time I retired 6 months after Linda passed, I had accumulated a decent nest egg. The life insurance payout, our retirement funds, the equity in our house in Seattle, all told, $3.8 million. My daughter Karen was my only child. She'd always been ambitious, driven. She graduated top of her class from law school, made partner at Morrison and Associates by 32. She married Brad Morrison 3 years ago. Brad was an investment banker, came from old Seattle money. They had a beautiful home in Bellevue, drove matching Tesla SUVs. I should have seen it coming. I really should have. After Linda died, Karen started coming around more often. At first, I was grateful. She'd show up every Sunday with groceries, help me sort through Linda's things, sit with me when the grief got too heavy. Brad would come too, always impeccably dressed, always asking how I was doing. It was Brad who first brought up my finances. We were sitting in my living room, about 8 months after Linda passed. Karen was in the kitchen making tea. "Marcus, have you thought about estate planning?" Brad asked, his voice casual. Too casual. "With assets like yours, you really need to think about tax efficiency." I shrugged. "I've got a will. Everything goes to Karen anyway." "Right, but there are better ways to structure it," Brad continued. He leaned forward, his eyes intense. "If something happened to you, Karen could lose 40% to estate taxes. That's over $1 million, Marcus. Money that should stay in the family." Karen came back with the tea. "Dad, Brad's right. I see this stuff all the time at the firm. People who don't plan properly, and their families get decimated by taxes and probate. What do you suggest?" I asked. That's when Karen pulled out a folder. She'd prepared documents already. "A family trust," she explained. "It would protect the assets, minimize taxes, give her power of attorney to help manage things if I ever needed it." "Just a precaution, Dad," she said, squeezing my hand. "You're healthy, but you're not getting any younger. This way, if something happens, everything's taken care of. No mess, no stress." I hesitated. "Maybe I should have another lawyer look at this?" Karen's face fell. The hurt in her eyes was palpable. "Dad, I am a lawyer. I'm your daughter. Don't you trust me?" Brad put his hand on my shoulder. "Karen spent all week preparing these documents for you. Free of charge, I might add. She just wants to protect you, Marcus." What was I supposed to say to that? This was my little girl, the child Linda and I had raised, put through college, celebrated every achievement with, the person Linda made me promise to take care of before she died. I signed the documents. That was 3 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I tried to pay my electric bill online, and my bank account was locked. I called the bank. They told me the account had been transferred to a trust, and I no longer had direct access. I needed to contact the trustee. The trustee was Karen. I called her immediately. She didn't answer. I called again, and again. Finally, on the 4th call, Brad picked up her phone. "Marcus, Karen's in a meeting. What's wrong?" "My bank accounts are frozen, Brad. I can't access my money." "Oh, that." He sounded distracted. "That's just part of the trust restructuring. It's temporary. Give it a few days." "A few days?" "I have bills to pay. I need access to my money." "Marcus, relax. Karen's handling it. She'll call you back." She didn't call back that day, or the next day. On day 3, I drove to their house in Bellevue. The gate was closed. I pressed the intercom. No answer. I could see Brad's car in the driveway. On day 4, I went to my bank in person. I brought my ID, my social security card, everything. The bank manager, a sympathetic woman named Patricia, pulled up my accounts on her computer. Her face changed. "Mr. Chen, I'm sorry, but all of your accounts show that you're no longer the account holder. They've been transferred to a trust managed by Karen Chen Morrison. But I didn't authorize that." Patricia clicked through screens, her expression growing more concerned. "According to our records, you signed power of attorney documents, giving Miss Chen Morrison full control of your financial affairs." "That's not what she told me. She said it was just for estate planning, for after I die." Patricia's voice dropped to a whisper. "Mr. Chen, I really think you need to contact a lawyer." "With what money?" "I had $200 in my wallet. That was it. I drove back to my house in Seattle. My key didn't work in the front door. The locks had been changed. I stood on my own front porch, trying to process what was happening. A neighbor, Mrs. Henderson, came out of her house. "Marcus, are you okay? My key doesn't work." "Oh, honey, didn't Karen tell you? She was here 2 days ago with some men and a moving truck. She said you were moving to a care facility. She changed the locks because the house was going on the market." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "A care facility?" She seemed really upset about it. "Said you'd been having memory problems." "Memory problems. I'm 62 years old. I have the memory of someone half my age. I could still recite pi to 20 digits. I could name every president in order. I didn't have memory problems. But Karen was telling people I did." I called her again. This time, she answered. "Dad, I was just about to call you." "Karen, what the hell is going on? Why can't I get into my house?" "Dad, we need to talk about this calmly." "Calmly? My accounts are frozen. My house is locked. And people are saying I have memory problems." Karen's voice took on that patient, condescending tone lawyers use. "Dad, you do have memory problems. You've been forgetting things, getting confused. Brad and I have been worried sick about you." "That's not true." "Dad, remember 2 weeks ago when you called me asking why your accounts were locked? I explained it to you then. This is exactly what I'm talking about. You're forgetting our conversations." I wanted to scream. I wanted to reach through the phone and shake her, but a cold realization was settling over me. She was setting me up. This was deliberate. "Why are you doing this?" My voice cracked. "I'm protecting you, Dad, from yourself. You're not capable of managing your finances anymore. It's not your fault. It's just age. Mom would want me to take care of you." She hung up. I sat in my car in front of my own house for 2 hours. Neighbors walked by. Some stared, some looked away. Mrs. Henderson brought me a bottle of water. That night, I slept in my car in a Walmart parking lot. The next week was a blur. I had no access to money, no access to my house, no access to anything. I called lawyers, but without money for a retainer, no one would take my case. I tried to explain that I had millions of dollars. It was just frozen, but it sounded insane even to my own ears. On day 8, Karen filed a petition for conservatorship. She claimed I had early onset dementia. She submitted medical reports. I later found out the reports were from a doctor I'd never seen, a doctor who happened to be Brad's golf buddy. The court granted a temporary conservatorship. A judge I'd never met decided I was incompetent based on documents I'd never been allowed to challenge. 2 weeks later, I was formally evicted from my own home. A sheriff's deputy stood there while I packed 1 box of personal items. 1 box. 34 years of marriage, 62 years of life, reduced to 1 cardboard box. Karen showed up as I was carrying the box to my car. "Dad, this doesn't have to be difficult," she said. "There's a very nice facility in Redmond. They have memory care units, activities, 3 meals a day. I don't have memory problems, Karen." "Dad, please don't make this harder than it has to be. How much does Brad owe?" Her face froze. Just for a second, but I saw it. The mask slipped. "What are you talking about?" "Brad's gambling debts." "How much?" She recovered quickly. "You're being paranoid, Dad. This is exactly why you need professional care. I'm your father, Karen. Your mother died in my arms. She made me promise to take care of you, and I did. How can you do this? For just a moment, I saw tears in her eyes. But then she blinked, and they were gone. I'll send you the facility information, she said, and walked back to her car. I didn't go to any facility. I drove to Tacoma and found the cheapest studio apartment I could rent month to month. 450 square feet. The carpet was stained, the windows didn't close properly, and the bathroom had mold in the corners. But it was mine. Well, rented. For $600 a month that I didn't have. I had to find work. At 62, with no recent employment references I could actually use, my options were limited. I walked into a Home Depot and asked if they were hiring. The store manager, a kind man named Ray, looked at my application. "You're overqualified for this, Mr. Chen? I need the job." He studied my face. I don't know what he saw there, but something in my expression must have convinced him. Loading and unloading trucks. $8 an hour. Interested? Yes. I started the next day. Have you ever loaded trucks for 8 hours at 62 years old? Your back screams. Your knees feel like they're full of broken glass. You go home and you can barely move. But you do it again the next day because you need to eat. My coworkers were mostly younger guys, some with criminal records, some just down on their luck. They were curious about the old Chinese guy loading lumber beside them, but they didn't ask questions. I appreciated that. At night, I'd sit in my studio apartment eating ramen noodles or whatever was cheapest at the grocery store, and I'd think about Linda. I'd stare at the one photo of her I'd managed to grab before I was evicted. Her smile. God, I missed that smile. I kept trying to find a lawyer. I made calls during my lunch breaks, but without money, without access to my own assets, I was stuck. The Legal Aid Society had a waiting list 6 months long. By then, Karen could have sold everything, moved the money offshore, done whatever she wanted. I was trapped. One night, about 2 months into my new life, I was so tired I could barely think. My back was killing me. I'd spent the day unloading a shipment of concrete mix, 60-pound bags, hundreds of them. I came home, heated up some instant mac and cheese in the microwave, and sat down on my air mattress. I looked around the studio apartment. This was it. This was my life now. I'd spent 40 years building a career, building a life, taking care of my family. And this was where I ended up. I pulled out the cardboard box I'd been allowed to take from my house. I'd barely looked through it. It hurt too much. But that night, I needed to feel close to Linda. Inside were random items, a photo album, some of Linda's jewelry that Karen apparently didn't want, a couple of my old ties, and at the bottom, wrapped in a dish towel, was Linda's old digital camera. I'd forgotten about this camera. Linda bought it back in 2005, before smartphones made standalone cameras mostly obsolete. She'd been so excited about it, taking pictures of everything, family dinners, my work projects, trips to Pike Place Market, our anniversary celebrations. I turned it on, not sure if it would even still work. The battery was dead, of course. I rummaged through the box and found the charger. While it charged, I finished my sad little dinner and thought about throwing in the towel. What was I fighting for anyway? Karen had won. Maybe I should just accept it. An hour later, the camera had enough charge to turn on. I started scrolling through the photos. Linda at the Space Needle, me at a construction site, Karen's law school graduation, our 30th wedding anniversary dinner. I was crying by the time I got to the photos from 2010. Linda in the garden she'd planted at our old house. Her smile was smaller in these photos. She'd been worried about money. The recession had hit her tech startup employer hard. She'd been afraid of layoffs. I kept scrolling. Family Christmas 2008. Linda's 45th birthday. And then, something strange. A series of photos that weren't photos at all, but documents. Linda had photographed documents. Stock certificates. I zoomed in. The company name was Cascade Technologies. Linda had worked there as a software engineer from 2006 to 2012. These were employee stock option certificates, dated 2008. The company had given her 200,000 stock options as part of her compensation package. I remembered this vaguely. During the recession, Cascade had been on the verge of bankruptcy. They couldn't afford to give raises, so they gave employees stock options instead. Linda had laughed about it. Stock options in a dying company, she'd said, worth about as much as monopoly money. But why had she photographed them? I kept scrolling. More document photos. Then a PDF file. The camera had enough memory to store PDFs? I needed to get this file onto my phone. I dug through the box and found the USB cable for the camera, connected it to my phone, waited for the files to transfer. The PDF was password protected. Of course it was. I tried Linda. Didn't work. I tried her birthday. Didn't work. I tried Karen's name, her birthday, our address, every password I'd ever known Linda to use. Nothing worked. I was about to give up when I remembered something. Linda was sentimental about exactly one thing. Our anniversary. May 14th. We'd gotten married on the 14th of May, 1989. I typed 051489. The PDF opened. Inside was a detailed document Linda had created. It was dated 2010, 2 years after she'd received the stock options. The document explained that she'd exercised her options, paying the strike price out of her own savings. She now owned 200,000 shares of Cascade Technologies outright. The shares were registered under her maiden name, Liu, at her mother's address in Portland. There was a note at the bottom, written like a letter. Marcus, if you're reading this, it means something happened to me, and you need this information. I know you think these stocks are worthless, and right now they probably are. But I believe in this company. I believe in the technology we're building, and if I'm wrong, we've lost $10,000 from our savings. But if I'm right, these shares might be worth something someday. I registered them under my maiden name at my mom's address, so there's no connection to our current finances. It's a safety net, a parachute. Because I love you, and I never want you to be helpless. The certificate originals are with my mother. The account information is below. Our anniversary is the password for everything. I love you. I'll always love you, even after I'm gone. L. I read it 3 times. Then I pulled out my phone and searched for Cascade Technologies. The company still existed. Not only did it still exist, it had gone public in 2021. They made some kind of AI-powered logistics software. According to Google Finance, the stock was currently trading at $41 per share. 200,000 shares times $41. $8.2 million. I sat there on my air mattress in my crappy studio apartment in Tacoma, staring at my phone, unable to breathe. Linda had left me $8.2 million, and Karen had no idea it existed. The next morning, I called Home Depot and told Ray I needed a few days off. He could hear something in my voice. Everything okay, Mr. Chen? I think it might be. I drove to Portland. Linda's mother had passed away 2 years ago, but her house had been sold to Linda's cousin, who still lived there. I showed up unannounced. Linda's cousin, Amy, opened the door and nearly fell over when she saw me. Marcus! Oh my God! We heard about what happened with Karen. Are you okay? News travels fast in families. I'm okay, Amy. I need to ask you something. Did Linda ever leave any documents with your mother? Financial documents? Amy's eyes widened. The envelope? Yes, Mom kept it in her safe deposit box. After she died, I moved it to mine. I kept meaning to mail it to you, but with everything, can I have it? It's important. 20 minutes later, I was holding a manila envelope containing the original stock certificates, all 200,000 shares, registered to Linda Liu, with Amy's mother's Portland address. I drove back to Seattle and went straight to a Starbucks with Wi-Fi. I found the investor relations contact information for Cascade Technologies and sent an email explaining that I was the executor of Linda Liu's estate and needed to verify stock ownership. They responded within 2 hours. Could I provide death certificate and proof of executor status? That's when I hit another wall. Karen, as my conservator, was technically the executor of Linda's estate too. She'd locked me out of everything. I needed a lawyer, a real one, but I still had no money. I took the stock certificates and walked into the offices of Morrison and Associates, the firm where Karen worked. I asked to speak to the managing partner. The receptionist tried to turn me away, but I insisted. I said I had information about Karen Chen Morrison that the firm needed to hear. 10 minutes later, I was sitting across from Thomas Morrison, Brad's father, and the firm's founder. "Mr. Chen, I'm very sorry about your situation," he began, his tone professionally sympathetic. "But I'm not sure what I can." "Your son owes $800,000 to underground bookies," I interrupted. "That's why my daughter is stealing my money. Brad's gambling debts." Thomas's face went white. "That's a serious accusation. Make some calls. You'll find out I'm right. Brad's got a problem. He's been lying to everyone, including you. And now my daughter is committing elder fraud to cover his debts." I watched Thomas Morrison grapple with this information. He was a lawyer, trained to be skeptical, but he was also a father, and I could see the doubt creeping into his eyes because somewhere, deep down, he knew his son. "Even if what you're saying is true, why come to me?" "Because I have $8.2 million in stock certificates that Karen doesn't know about. When this comes out, and it will come out, your firm's reputation is going to take a massive hit, unless you help me fix this quietly. You provide legal representation to help me get my conservatorship overturned. I'll deal with Karen and Brad privately. Your firm's name stays out of it." Thomas was quiet for a long time. Then he pressed a button on his phone. "Jennifer, send Michael Chen to my office and cancel my afternoon appointments." Michael Chen wasn't related to me, but he was the best litigation attorney at Morrison and Associates. Over the next 3 hours, we put together a strategy. First, establish my mental competency. Michael arranged for me to be evaluated by 3 independent psychiatrists, top experts in the field. All 3 concluded I had no cognitive impairment whatsoever. The reports Karen had submitted were analyzed and determined to be fraudulent. Second, verify the stock ownership. Michael filed paperwork with Cascade Technologies as my attorney. With the death certificate and the stock certificates, we proved that Linda Liu's estate, which I was the rightful executor of, owned 200,000 shares worth $8.2 million. Third, subpoena Brad's financial records. This is where Thomas Morrison helped. He made some calls to people who make the kind of calls you don't want to think about. Within a week, we had documented proof that Brad owed $847,000 to various illegal gambling operations. Text messages, bank transfers, everything. Fourth, file for emergency dissolution of the conservatorship and criminal charges against Karen and Brad. The hearing was scheduled for 2 weeks later. During those 2 weeks, I sold enough Cascade stock to cover Michael's retainer and my immediate expenses. $3 million. Even after taxes, I'd have enough to fight. Karen didn't know any of this was coming. As far as she knew, I was still that broken old man in Tacoma. The hearing was in King County Superior Court. Karen arrived with her own attorney, confident. She saw me sitting there with Michael, and her face changed. "Dad, what are you doing?" "Taking my life back." The hearing lasted 4 hours. Michael presented the psychiatric evaluations, proving I was competent. He presented evidence that the original medical reports were fraudulent. He presented proof of Brad's gambling debts. He presented bank records showing that Karen had transferred $2.4 million of my money to accounts Brad controlled. Karen's attorney tried to fight, but there was no fighting this. The evidence was overwhelming. The judge, an older woman named Martinez, looked disgusted. "Miss Chen Morrison, I've been on this bench for 23 years. I've seen a lot of things, but I have rarely seen such a calculated betrayal of trust. Your father trusted you with his finances because you were his daughter, and you used that trust to steal from him." Karen was crying. "Your Honor, I can explain." "I don't want to hear it. The conservatorship is dissolved immediately. All assets are to be returned to Mr. Chen within 7 days. Furthermore, I'm referring this case to the district attorney for criminal prosecution." She turned to Brad. "Mr. Morrison, you're a disgrace. To your profession, to your family, and to basic human decency." It was over, just like that. Outside the courthouse, Karen tried to approach me. "Dad, please, can we talk?" "You have 7 days to return my money, Karen. That's all we have to talk about." "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Brad," he pressured me. He said it was just temporary, that we'd pay it back. You declared your own father incompetent. You had me thrown out of my house. You tried to steal everything I had. I know, and I'm so sorry. I looked at my daughter, this person I'd raised, this person Linda and I had loved more than anything, and I felt nothing. The love was still there somewhere, buried deep, but it was buried under so much pain and betrayal that I couldn't reach it. Linda left me that money, not you. Linda. Even after death, she took better care of me than you did while alive. I walked away. Over the next month, the legal system ground forward. Karen was charged with elder fraud, theft, and falsifying medical documents. Brad was charged as an accomplice. The district attorney offered them a deal. Karen got 4 years probation and had to pay full restitution. Brad got 3 years in prison. Karen accepted. Brad initially fought, but when his debt collectors found out he was broke, he suddenly decided prison might be safer. He testified against Karen to reduce his sentence. The news coverage was brutal. Lawyer daughter steals millions from elderly father. Karen lost her job. Brad's banking licenses were revoked. Their marriage didn't survive. I got my $3.8 million back, plus the remaining $5.2 million from Linda's stock. After taxes and legal fees, I had about $7.8 million total. More money than I knew what to do with. That's when I met Mrs. Rodriguez. I was back at Home Depot, visiting Ray to thank him for giving me a job when I needed it. Mrs. Rodriguez was there buying supplies. She was 74, Latina, tiny, maybe 5 feet tall. She was arguing with a cashier about a $17 return. "Ma'am, I understand, but this receipt is from 4 months ago." "I didn't know. My son said he'd handle it." Something about her voice made me pay attention. I'd heard that desperation before. In my own voice, 2 months ago, I approached them. "Excuse me, is there a problem?" The cashier looked relieved to have a witness. Mrs. Rodriguez looked embarrassed. "It's nothing. I need this $17. After the situation was resolved, I invited her to coffee. She told me her story. Her son had convinced her to sign over her house. Now, she was living in a trailer, working part-time at a laundromat, trying to survive. She'd tried to get help, but didn't know how to navigate the legal system. I gave her Michael Chen's contact information. I paid for her legal fees. Within 3 months, her son was forced to return her house. That's when I knew what to do with Linda's gift. I started a nonprofit called Silver Shield. We help elderly victims of financial abuse, free legal representation, financial counseling, a 24-hour hotline, emergency housing, everything I'd needed when Karen took everything from me. We're in 6 states now. We've helped over 200 people get their lives back. Linda's stock money funds it all. Sometimes I stand in the Silver Shield office and I look at Linda's picture on my desk, the photo I carried with me through those dark weeks in Tacoma. I talk to her. "You saved me," I tell her. "Even though you've been gone for 3 years, you saved me." And I swear, sometimes I can feel her answering. That warm feeling, like sunshine. Like her hand on my shoulder. "That was the plan, sweetheart. That was always the plan." Karen tried to contact me 6 months ago. She sent a letter. Said she's in therapy. Said she realizes what she did was unforgivable, but she hopes someday I might consider talking to her. I haven't responded yet. Maybe someday. But not today. Today I'm meeting with a woman in Portland whose daughter-in-law cleaned out her bank accounts. Today I'm helping a man in Spokane whose son stole his house. Today I'm doing what Linda taught me to do. Prepare for the worst, hope for the best, and always have a parachute. 3 lessons I learned through all of this. First, trust is beautiful, but verification is necessary, even with family, especially with family. Second, never sign anything you don't completely understand, no matter who's pressuring you. If someone says, "Don't you trust me?" that's a red flag, not reassurance. And third, true love means preparing your partner for the worst-case scenario. Linda did that for me. She knew I'd be lost without her, so she made sure I'd never be helpless. She didn't just leave me money. She left me a mission. She left me purpose. She left me the ability to turn my pain into someone else's salvation. That's the real inheritance, not the stocks, the lesson. I'm 62 years old. I've been betrayed by my own child. I've lost everything and gotten it back. I've slept on an air mattress in Tacoma and signed checks for millions of dollars. And I've learned that family isn't defined by blood. It's defined by loyalty, by sacrifice, by love that extends beyond death. Linda proved that. And now I spend every day proving it to people who need to hear it. If you're out there and someone you love is stealing from you, if you're trapped and helpless and don't know what to do, hear me. Document everything. Trust your instincts. Ask for help. There are people who will believe you. There are people who will fight for you. I'm one of them, because Linda fought for me first.